Pretty sure we're live. Wait, I have music. Oh God, what happened? Okay.
Oh,
That was very bad.
yeah,
We're live.
we're live.
For real this time. Welcome to Suicide and Stuff.
Wow.
Emphasis and stuff.
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Des.
I am Jess. We don't know the order we're introducing ourselves in.
And I'm Lena.
And we have a guest. Her name is
Lena.
Yeah.
We have a Lena, not a Lena. Not Elena.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But a Lena.
Lena.
Yes.
Yeah.
FYI.
People loved our music.
Good. So glad.
Yeah.
So we're here. We have a rating. We are rated R. Why are we rated R?
I say bad words.
Bad words. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. My tech duties have been done now. Okay, what are we talking about tonight?
Ooh, we're going to talk about supernatural experiences. Some of them more on the spiritual side, and some of them more on the spooky side, and some of them in between, I think. And some of the connections between the supernatural and suicide, both sort of prevention, loss, we're going to be all over the place.
Yay.
But supernatural.
Good.
Yeah. Very good.
I believe our first order of business was tarot. Do we need a content warning tonight?
I mean, I'm not planning to. Maybe.
Just in case, content warning.
We were going to talk about suicide.
Oh.
I think that's the content. I did want to just make sure everyone before we start gets to see these tears that I'm sending to John Gunn for winning.
Can you remind us what he said? That was so funny.
I don't remember. I did laugh about it. It was good. Also, I like John. And we're not unbiased here, it turns out.
Yeah.
You can
John's
also
okay.
see as the feature that I have some runes on my fingers. Speaking of spooky. Not really spooky. I don't think they're spooky. They're just spells. Okay, let's start with tarot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fel says your tears are clean.
Yeah, well, that's true. I try to keep them clean, I guess.
It's a weird way to think about tears.
What do they normally have in them? It's like unclean. Who has dirty tears? What does that mean? I don't know. I feel weird about them now. They're mostly, I can tell you that a lot of the list is about happy things that I cried about. So if anybody else wants another vial of tears, I could do this again. We could auction it.
It would be a good continuous prize.
I don't want to have to always keep track of everything I cry about.
Look,
I think
until we have enough capital for customized conversation hearts.
That feels too much like therapy to keep track of everything I cry about. But I will do it occasionally. Okay, so let's talk about tarot. So for me, something that has been, and actually a number of suicide attempt survivors that I know, something that's been really important in like getting to a place where I feel like good enough about living. That's my version of saying recovery. I was like, I feel okay about being alive. Sometimes, most of the time.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, so that has been about like making meaning of the way like I navigate extreme states. So extreme states to me are experiences of maybe disconnection with consensus reality, or really powerful, overwhelming emotions, like significant amounts of energy, or the opposite. But just these sort of states that are not in that sort of like typical range of what a person might experience day to day or what's considered typical. And those experiences have felt in the past for me extremely distressing because I didn't have ways to make meaning of them. So witchcraft has been for me a way of like making meaning of that stuff. It's a way of understanding like why those states might happen, is that they're a part of like having that kind of crisis might be a part of like growing or changing or becoming something new. There's a connection with like transformation in a sort of spiritual way, I guess, with that. It also makes them feel more navigable because I've been able to do things like create ritual around it that makes me feel like I have some power in those spaces. And that has been really integral to like staying alive. Making meaning is integral to staying alive, I think, for people. So the way I think about, I'm voice hearing, and the way I think about my voices and have built a relationship with them has been in terms of thinking about like summoning them and then also putting them to rest. And that's all sort of ritualized stuff that comes from witchcraft also. And so my sort of first entry point to all this was tarot cards. And actually my mom used to read my tarot cards. She like at one point got a Rider-Waite deck when I was young. And so my mom has read my tarot cards a lot of my life. That was my introduction to it. But tarot has been a really good way of being able to come to terms with things like as they are. Because I think one of the things that causes a lot of pain for people in the world is not being able to see things how they are and not being able to see a way for them to be something different. And the way tarot works is that your cards will definitely tell you how things are, whether you like it or not. Usually, for me, I feel abused by my tarot cards. They're like, I'll be like, I'm sad. What's going on, tarot? And they're like, you're sad. And I'm like, God.
Jess, I just remembered I have tarot cards right here, too.
What?
I have your cards right here.
Yeah, Lena actually has my favorite deck right now because I read her tarot cards recently. I've also.
What the hell? Why can't I get a live reading?
I won't do it online. I'm not doing it on the internet. I will do one in person with you. I brought my unicorn cards. Those ones were not cool.
That was something.
They were weird. But I think there's this other piece too of like when you do readings with people is that it has a lot of similarities to me with peer support because it opens space to have discussions about like life experiences, because part of what you're doing is you're interpreting your experience through what the cards are presenting to you. So that's been, for me, that's been a really, really powerful way of like helping me to make meaning of the things that are going on and create space to reflect on those things. Because I had such bad experiences with the mental health system, therapy has not been a safe place for me to do that. So like these experiences have been a lot more helpful in sort of navigating that stuff. There's this other piece about like tarot and witchcraft in general that I think is interesting and has some connections with suicide or suicide prevention or understanding loss even, which is that it helps us develop understanding of our experiences and has this like closeness to and understanding of the role that death plays in life. So like there are constant discussions about like life cycles and living and dying and what death means in witchcraft and in tarot in particular. So like the death card in tarot is the card that signifies great change, and it might mean that something in your life has to die. And I think oftentimes when people are suicidal that's like a signifier, just like the death card is, that something very important needs to change or needs to die in their life. And sometimes not finding what that thing is or a way to make that happen can be what causes people to kill themselves. So I feel like, so these things are like reflections of the world as it is. And that can be really powerful, is to like have something that holds a mirror up for you. It's even more powerful if you can find ways through that. And I think that some of the community that can come with either reading tarot communally, or if you participate in a coven or anything like that, is that like witchcraft has a space where it's intentional about creating community and connection. That feels cool to me and feels like helpful and supportive in times where I've really struggled. I do have a problem where sometimes when I'm in a really bad place, I'm like, I don't want to read my tarot cards because they're going to be mean to me, which is true. Like, they are going to be mean to me, but where I'm going to be mean to myself about them. But I think that's similar to like people who are like, I don't want to go to therapy because I feel bad. And like sometimes that's okay to do and sometimes it's not. But they have been like this stuff has been one of the primary spaces where I've been able to make meaning of my experience in a way that like made sense and helped me navigate stuff like far more than anything like diagnosis or treatment ever has.
You mean your diagnoses don't help you navigate the world?
No, not at all.
That's weird.
What we got on the comments? Are they good and interesting?
Looks like we like the tarot.
No. It's interesting because as I started posting about this, people, I had lots of people either direct message me or say something about like, oh, I read tarot too, or I do. So I feel like this is something that's maybe like more common in suicide attempt survivor communities than maybe I like knew. Or maybe it's just more common in the world than I knew. Hard to say.
Bunch of secret tarot reading bitches.
Secret tarot reading bitches. Yeah. Very much. Yeah. So I thought that there would be things for me to respond to, but I don't see any questions. Right?
Not yet. They're really quiet tonight. Maybe
quiet.
Maybe you were just saying too many good things that couldn't keep up.
That's too smart.
Too smart. What's happening with your hair right now? What color is it?
Mine?
Yeah.
It's the same.
I heard it was normal.
Yeah. Someone told me she meant it as a compliment. She was like, your hair looks great. It's so normal. And I was like, what? I think my hair is like great. Not naturally. I don't know. So I'm having a crisis about it. I'm probably going to dye it copper next.
Copper?
Yeah. Like a pen.
Shit. Your hair was bright orange when I met you.
Yes.
Did you know?
Like a highlighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just looked at photos from the first suicide spring break in Chicago that I went to. And my hair was bright orange and everybody had wigs because it was before my wigs got stolen.
Sure did.
That was the time that I just showed up with 9 wigs to AAS because that's the kind of human I am.
Yes. And you tried to do it again.
Yeah, I tried to do it again. But like I didn't know there was going to be a party. I just showed up with 9 wigs.
Okay,
in case.
That's I don't know.
Thing. So yeah.
For those of us watching who don't know what suicide spring break is.
So we have a party at the Suicidology conference that I started calling Suicide Spring Break, and people didn't hate that name, which is still shocking to me that we're getting away with that still kind of.
Yeah, I don't know how that's happening, really.
Yeah, lots of support for that phrase.
Doing it until someone yells at us, and then we'll keep doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, that is why Jonathan was wearing that wig.
Yeah.
That is why that happened.
He actually liked it so much that I sent it home with him.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's amazing.
It's a Martha Washington wig, in case you wanted to know, which I bought originally. Here's some Ann stuff for you. I bought originally because I used to go to Constitution weekend in Grand Lake, which no one celebrates except Grand Lake, I'm pretty sure. And they have a parade and people wear colonial gear and stuff. And
Colonial
so I,
gear.
yeah, so I used to go that weekend and we got the wigs because obviously I am going to participate in costuming. Obviously.
Okay.
So,
Fel wants you to know that she really likes the Angel Tarot with Doreen Virtue.
yeah, that's the one that I brought.
I know.
I think I left it there too, didn't I? I was like, you all keep this. Yeah.
Don't need all that.
People really liking conversations about hair, but have nothing to say about suicide tonight.
People with hair kill themselves sometimes.
And without hair.
Right. That's why the sometimes. I really like how your hand says sad and dead.
Sad and dead and soft.
Soft, sad, and dead.
Stay soft. Stay soft, bitches. Okay. So, are we moving on to beef corner already?
I am not. I didn't think about my beef. Do you guys have your beef all prepared? I mean, I know Lena does.
I've always got beefs.
All right.
Yes. Is it beef corner time?
Let's do beef corner. It's beefy corner. There we go. Some cows. Should we explain beef corner for, I don't know, our no new viewers?
Well, no new viewers. Beef corner is where we talk about beefs we have.
Very good. Lena Harris named it beef corner.
Is that enough?
I think so.
More?
Who wants to go first?
Lena, go first.
Yeah. Mine is that I'm not a big fan of fall anyways. And in Colorado, we have a micro short little fall and not that many trees. And usually when we get a fall, we have a few days where the trees are just beautiful and with red leaves. In the last 2 years, we have had early cold snaps, which means that the trees don't turn beautiful colors. It means that the trees turn these like weird, just bland, not even like an off green color. And the leaves just sit there on the trees. And they sit there all winter long. It makes for an ugly fall. It's an ugly winter. And it's not until the spring when the new leaves come that these leaves fall off. And I'm just pissed driving around seeing all these trees that are just not beautiful right now.
Well, you were supposed to be here this weekend and it is fall here.
Yeah, well, I'll suffer through my trees.
I'm gonna guilt you.
Jess, do you feel me on that one?
I don't go outside that much. I'm like indoorsy. Yeah, hashtag indoorsy.
You can see trees from your office.
I do, and I like when the leaves fall, mostly because my dog is old and grumpy and like bad at being a dog. But he like acts like a puppy when he gets in the leaves. He like hops around. He gets really stoked about it. He has to sniff every leaf. Sort of annoying, but I'm pretty into it. So that's not a beef, but I do have beefs. Always a beef. So here's the thing. I went to a conference and it was called Crisis Con. And so it was crisis centers. And I was presenting about like how we talk about least restrictive interventions, like how do we like prioritizing not using police and stuff for people. And my beef was that it was like revolutionary to people. It was like this was like brand new, like we have never thought about this before. Not everyone, but like a lot of people in the room. And so I'm like, okay, like I'm glad we got to talk about that, but so like what the fuck have we been doing? Is it just like calling the cops all the time? Or is it, I'm like, what to me, like crisis work is like where the people right there in that moment that can make the biggest difference. And we can't be consistent about like thinking about how like it's more risky to like add police to a situation. We're not considering that in our risk assessment. We don't think about the risk that we bring to the situation as crisis workers. So that made me sad and mad.
You gotta put that on your hand too.
Mad?
Yeah, that could be our next prison tattoo.
Yeah, are you gonna do more with me? Because you've got to fix this one.
No, you're evil.
Yeah, sorry, I have a cough. I'm gonna put a cough drop in my mouth.
Yeah, I don't super get why that's shocking either. Like, even if you don't have specific feelings about cops, like, they're not trained to deal with people in crisis most of the time. So, like, why call them? I don't know. I don't call them for fucking potholes in the street. It's irrelevant to them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good analogy.
I don't want to say that like all crisis workers are just calling cops left and right, but just the idea that like it was a big deal to think about the risk we bring to the situation was uncomfortable for me.
I don't know. There's so much like overlap with crisis work and clinical work, and I'm shocked that that's ever a question.
Yeah.
Ever. Any other beefs?
Yeah, I have beefs that like every fucking plane out of Utah is always delayed.
Okay.
Every time I've been there, twice I've been there. But sorry, I keep coughing. But yeah, always delayed. Stupid. Space Jesus didn't do anything about that.
I tried to go to Wyoming for a talk once. It's the only talk I'd never made. My flights were all fucked up, and there was no way that I would be able to get there until like the next afternoon, way beyond when I was supposed to talk. And I was supposed to stop in Utah, so that's good to know.
Yep.
No, I was stuck somewhere. I don't even know where I was stuck. That was sad.
I mean, it's like literally only been twice, so I don't know if that's really a good litmus test, but
it's not sciencey.
No, this is not scientific. Beefs are not always scientific. They're just about feeling.
They're just beefy.
Beefs don't have to be science. They can be, but they don't have to be. Science also doesn't have to be science and suicide, which is my consistent beef, but we don't need to go there again.
Science often isn't science and suicide.
No, it's not at all.
Ology. I can't word today.
Yeah.
Should we take a break from your beefs so you can like breathe a little and then we can come back to your beefs?
Yeah.
That's what are your beefs?
My beefs are with people being mean to me. Mainly because I sent out a fucking newsletter. I hate newsletters. I hate when I get them. I hate sending them to people, but I feel like I have to. It's part of my job. So I do it like once a year or when something big happens. And something big happened this week, so I was like, all right, I gotta send a fucking newsletter. I'm gonna regret this. And let me tell you, I regret it.
What was the big thing that happened this week, though?
We were in People magazine. We are people.
That was cool. I was in the magazine. You were on the internets and the magazine.
Yeah, there were a bunch of us in there. That was really cool. I think they used 23 portraits from Live Through This, which is the biggest, certainly the biggest print situation that the project has ever been in. So yeah, it's just always so cool to see things like tangible results, or not results, tangible media. But those, I'm not beefing right now. I'm talking about nice things. So back to
beef.
Sent out a newsletter, and I was like, look, it's very honest. I was like, I hate sending newsletters because sometimes I get a sassy response that's like, you're looking for attention because you only send newsletters when you do shit. And I was trying to circumvent that by saying so, and then I got a couple of mean emails, and I'm like, look guys, I am a human baby with very thin skin, so you could not be mean to me. That'd be good. Yeah, that's what I got. People are being mean to me, and I don't want to send out newsletters.
Do you remember, you probably don't remember Yik Yak? It was like the short short-lived social media platform for colleges.
I know that it existed.
Yeah, so when I was teaching, it was really big, and I guess there was lots of bullying and this and that. So at one point, they put a filter in that if you were to post something mean, it would catch it and say, what you're posting sounds mean. Are you really sure you want to go ahead and send it? Sadly, put something like that on your emails that you send out. So when people reply, they get a little warning.
That'd be good. Can you
sure
not be
about
mean to me? Do you think you can rewrite this to be a little more diplomatic going forward?
But okay, here's the thing. When I'm being mean, if I had a little pop-up that was like, do you want to be this mean? I would be like, yes. So it would not stop.
Make it meaner.
Yeah, I'd be like, let me redo this.
Yeah, but when you're mean, you're smiling.
Yeah, I'm always smiling when I'm mean. I'm the worst.
It's fucked up. People can't even tell if you're being mean to them sometimes. They're like, wait, she's smiling. I don't. It's uncomfortable. I've seen it happen many times.
I just reminded Elise about Yik Yak.
Oh.
The
I
good
haven't
old
been
days.
looking at the comments. Yeah, I'll get distracted.
We make got any more beefs?
Lena has tons of beefs. I know it.
Which ones are appropriate? The fall one was a good one. What can I say?
It was a good one. Do you have shallow
My beef is
beefs?
also just my ongoing insomnia, which was definitely in full force last night, which you two experienced this morning from my middle of the night texts. So,
I mean, to be fair, I sent you a middle of the night text.
Yeah. I mean, I send like midnight texts to Des consistent.
all the time. Yeah. And now I'm never up at 2 a.m. anymore. So I don't see them until the next morning.
Yeah, she'll text 6 p.m. and I respond at midnight.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you guys about my middle of the night text to Lena last night. So, had some gummy bears. We've bonded over Haribo gummy bears. Am I saying that right? Haribo. I'm still surprised it's not Japanese. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
So had some, and I never, we don't really do food in the bedroom upstairs, but I took my gummy bears upstairs, and then I was like, oh shit, I need to open this bag. It's going to be really loud. Took the bag of gummy bears into the bathroom, opened them, dropped a bunch of red and green ones on the floor, and that is fucking wrong. Those are my favorites. All the other ones are trash. So I picked them up, and I rinsed them off. Because I was like, I'm not letting these go. And then I was like,
gummy bears?
Huh?
Slimy gummy bears?
Slimy gummy bears. And so they're in my hand, and I was like, oh god, what do I do? So I shoved them all in my mouth, and I took a picture.
And sent it to me.
Is it anything like the picture of all the dicks on my face that I sent you?
It's not nearly as good as that.
One time, Dad sent me a whole package of gummy dicks, but they had all melted together, so I just put them on my face and sent her pictures of them. And then I put them on the internet, because privacy is an illusion anyway.
Yeah, what is privacy? Hey, we have a question. What about psychological autopsies? Carly wants to know because she reads our Twitter feeds. How much time do we have left in our beef corner?
Carly is starting shit because she knows me. Psychological autopsy is pseudoscience, fuckery. That's what it is. It's like suicidology was like, we have to try and say we know things that we don't know. So then they came up with that, and now they fucking train people in it. And then people do it, and they think they know things about people who have died that they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, seems not scientific, just if you think about what it is.
Yeah. And who's doing it? There's sometimes it's just an elected coroner who's like, were they depressed? Check.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking about Amazon reviews of sugar-free gummy bears. You should look those up. I'm just gonna put this here to jog some memory. Do that. Yeah, I don't get it. I also with psychological autopsies, you're losing the voice of the person who died. And like maybe you have some ephemera they left behind, maybe. Yeah, I don't like it. And I remember like helping out. I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the fact that it exists and we still somehow fucking use it. I remember giving some guidance on sex and gender and sexuality stuff because it was bad a couple years ago. And
Yeah.
I just remember looking at the forums being like, I don't, why does this exist? So yeah, psychological autopsies are a good time.
I think they're a bad time.
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah. I was not.
So you know. What else?
Trying to look for a photo of me with the dicks on my face.
Oh yeah, I have the picture of my grandmother with the dicks on her too.
Hi,
I don't know where they are. Oh, my mom's here.
Mom.
She says
Hey, Jess's mom.
Her name's Karen, guys. Make fun of Karen. Thanks, Karen. I'm drinking.
I think that you should talk about your stuff next. Unless we've got more beefs.
I don't think I have any more beef. I feel really stupid being like, people are mean to me.
We can go back to beef at the end if we want. Round 2.
Yeah, we can round 2 the beef corner.
Go for it, Lena.
Okay.
You're up.
All right. It's my segment, and I think what I'm going to talk about today is about signs and visits, suicide loss. I think probably people here know, but I'm a suicide loss survivor, a sibling suicide loss survivor. I lost my sister Danielle to suicide almost 7 years ago. And a lot of my grief experience has come from visits and signs, which I don't talk a lot about. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about them because they're also very personal and private and carry a lot of meaning. But what I've come to experience is talking to a lot of other suicide loss survivors is that a lot of us experience signs and visits, and they seem to fall in a lot of different broad categories. For example, getting phone calls from our loved ones once they've passed, or having visits in dreams where we can ask questions and get answers, or just a really wide variety of signs and visits during our waking life. And people have different ways that they receive signs, whether it's through songs that come on the radio or lights flickering or special sounds or premonitions or just feelings that people experience. And I think thinking about what makes these signs and visits so meaningful, that's kind of where I went into thinking about this mini segment, which is why is it even a thing to talk about? And I was thinking part of it is that so much of suicide and suicide prevention really is trying so hard to be scientific and to try to find answers and trying to come up with all these studies and replicate and understand what goes on in someone's mind. And it feels sometimes very impersonal, just big data, looking through things, trying to come up with formulas. And at the end of the day, I don't think that there's anything scientific that's really going to explain why somebody ultimately dies by suicide. In the case of my sister, I knew she was very sick. She had PTSD. I knew that she was really struggling. I understand in a really big, broad scheme why she died. What I will never really know, at least not through the parameters of this reality, is what happened the moments leading up to her death. What were her final thoughts? What did she think of me in those last moments? And those are the unanswered questions that no science is ever going to be able to explain for me, no matter what. And those are the hardest pieces for me, grieving the loss, to hold on to. Because those are the questions I desperately need answers to. And I'm incredibly lucky that I was able to get answers from her through signs and visits. And so it was from beyond science that I was able to get the answers that I needed to be able to continue to survive a very traumatic loss. that science is never going to be able to answer. So for me, being open to signs and visits is a way to expand meaning, to continue a connection with a loved one, and to understand that there are other ways of knowing, and other ways to find connections in this reality and beyond. And then tangentially, I wanted to also add that a lot of people do go see psychics and mediums and find answers that way, which can also be helpful for many people.
Have you done that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about any of these things, or are you intellectualizing? What's the switch?
I'm not going to talk about a lot of details because, again, the messages are really personal. But with the psychic, definitely there were answers to specific questions that I had that I didn't articulate in the session, but that I brought with me, that were directly answered. And what I really appreciated is the answers were not just happy, cozy, everything's going to be great. They really addressed a lot of the pain and the trauma and acknowledged the hurt that was there. So I didn't feel like someone was trying to just wrap up things with a pretty bow and to make me feel better, but really giving me a different way to ask questions and to communicate. And that was also an interesting experience because I went in wanting to just hear from my sister and ended up learning about other family members who had passed, which I wasn't expecting to. So that was also just an unexpected bonus.
Right. I feel like your last visit from your sister was pretty significant.
Yes, it was.
You don't want to talk about details of that one? Okay, fine. It was good.
I'll say this. When Danielle first died, I got quite a few visits, especially dream visits, especially the first year. I had a lot of questions. And then once a lot of the burning questions were answered, the visits slowed down. But what happens without fail is when the pain really starts to escalate, when my grief really becomes overwhelming, and I'm just back in that place where I'm struggling to find meaning and a way forward, I get a sign or a visit again. And the one that you're talking about was one of those moments where I was just really spinning and having a difficult time. And then a song came on that doesn't really come on, and the lyrics were carried a different weight, and they matched exactly a thought that I was having. And the song was one of the songs that I connect with her, and it came together in this way that I knew it was a message to me, and it was a message I needed to hear at the time.
Awesome. I am like, I was telling you, Lena, earlier in text, like all of this shit is completely foreign to me. I've never had any experiences like this. I have no, like, I don't know. I have a hard enough time dealing with reality, as I said. Like, Fel's terribly afraid of ghosts, and she says she, like, kind of feels these things, but I have no idea. I'm like, I want to know more. Maybe I want to have one of these experiences, or maybe I really fucking don't. But, like, you guys are just speaking Greek to me.
What I think is like cool about these kinds of experiences is that I think that when it comes to suicide, there's so many questions, and I think we spend a lot of time trying to like science them, like so much time trying to science them, and our science isn't very good. Around that, which is like, I'm not going to get back to beef corner. I'm just saying, like, our science isn't very good. And, I think we're trying to like science answers that are about experiences that can't be captured in that way, about like things about pain and things about like meaning making and stuff. And like, instead of like sciencing about the things that we can really science better about. And it would be cool if there were just space in this field for there to be something else that has these answers, and for science to focus on the things that it's good at.
But we have so much talk about faith, Jess.
Yeah.
God, I was trying to bait Lena. It didn't work.
I don't like faith, and I don't like hope. I think it's like this is about like intentional meaning making, and then being open to experiences that help you make meaning. And that's like different to me than like like faith and hope. And it's different than science. It's about like allowing meaning to exist that's going to like deal with this space where we're testing reality, and testing the limits of what can be proven. And like those spaces have been like very, very important to me in like healing from a lot of pain that I carried, and then also like as a loss survivor too. So like I think both of those spaces.
I think also there's I think sometimes science, suicide prevention tries to find one truth and make everything fit one truth, and I think ultimately there's not one truth, and some people will experience signs and visits and some people won't, and I think that there's not one truth about whether it's real or not real. I think it depends on the person, the experience, the relationship. For some people, finding that meaning comes from faith, and for some people it comes from science, and I think all of those for that individual are valid, just making space for all of those different ways of experiencing reality. Because I think for me, what's so clear with suicide is that it just shatters the sense of reality. I think the least likely reality is the one that my sister's not in, and that's the one I'm living in. So every other reality is more likely than the one I'm living in. And so who am I to say what's truth or someone else's experience when the one I'm living in, I can't even wrap my head around. I've just heard so many different ways that people make sense or experience the world, and I think that they can all coexist. Right. But I think that can also be really difficult for people who want to have one way that we can all group around and have the same experience. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Right. Like that. I think suicide pushes us to have experiences with like unreality. Right. Like it doesn't feel, I don't think it feels, there's something that feels very unreal about being suicidal. At least it has for me. And there's also something that feels very unreal about losing people to suicide. And it's like both intensely real and intensely unreal at the same time. And it's, I think it is an opportunity for us to recognize that there's not a truth with a capital T. But what I see our field often doing instead is like trying to figure out what that capital T truth is. And it eliminates the space for all of this stuff that really creates a lot of meaning for people.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like another proposal to put in for the conference.
I don't, there's a lot of things, but it would be fun to talk about that, I think, you know, that not all of this is going to be explained by our science.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or should be.
Right. What's the goal? Is it?
Yeah.
Like who needs to do the knowing for what purpose? What's going to happen? Even if we do have all the answers, is it going to change anything?
Yeah. And it's
lots of good comments going on too.
Yeah. I was going to say, when I start talking about some of this stuff, I feel like a lot of people come up with like their own, even if they don't have a connection to this with suicide, I think they can connect to some of these experiences in other ways. And it's like this space where we can make something that can be very unfamiliar to people like suicide, like be understandable to people too. And I think that's really important. Let's look at some of these comments.
Yeah.
What you got?
Let's see. Scrolling back up. Amelia was talking about losing her best friend, Mo, and I believe she said she had a dream in a comment above. Yeah, vivid dream. She was talking about them grieving in Mo's living room and kitchen, and she was jumping up and down in the dining room, saying she was joking and she didn't mean it, and she was still there, but Amelia was the one who could see her. And let's see. Nina said her dad and her, after her brother died, they had light bulbs exploding.
That's a really common one that I hear too, and lights flickering.
Yeah.
Guys, this shit would scare the fuck out of me.
I think it does scare some people, and I think for some people, if they ask to stop, those things do stop.
Yeah.
I love them
Sally,
all, open to them.
yeah. Sally Spencer Thomas, her family finds like golf balls everywhere on Carson.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
My grandmother believed, like, well, she says she's Presbyterian, but she's got some real reincarnation feelings. She used to say that the lightning bugs that would get in our house every summer were my great grandmother. That's the closest I've got, guys.
I've heard a lot of things about ladybugs and butterflies from people. And birds, things connected with birds too.
Yeah. I think, when it comes to signs and visits, if people are open to them and looking for signs and visits, I think they can, when they are. There's not just one type. So I think I've heard also a lot of people have experiences with animals, and know in that moment, there's just a sense of, this is my loved one communicating with me through this animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just it's like another way of knowing that this is a sign, this is different than just a regular experience.
Yeah.
Oh, Amelia said she's known people who associated feathers and pennies with their person. And actually, Stella Schaff, who died recently by suicide, her son Christopher, she called him her bright shiny penny. And she gave me one of his pennies once. So she associated pennies with him. Okay, yeah, you guys go.
I think it's the other thing that's interesting and kind of cool to me about this like stuff, I guess, is that it doesn't matter if it's real or not. Like it doesn't matter at all. We don't have to think about whether or not it's like true, right? Because it's what matters is what it means to us. And I don't mean to question that it's true either, because like I do think it's real. But it doesn't matter. Like we don't have to spend time on that. And it's like one of the spaces where we can just like believe people's experiences and just like that's okay. Which I think is cool, because there's not a lot of space where that happens around supernatural experiences.
Yeah.
What else? Look, we're not supposed to have downtime here.
Downtime?
I'm over here having
we
feelings.
Have about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we have about 10 more minutes. So
one of the questions I posed when we were briefing for this is the bigger question of, what does this kind of conversation have to do with the field? And I think Jess was kind of getting to that too, in terms of, this is one of those topics where science can't really evaluate it the same way that it would evaluate some of the other data that it tries to evaluate. And it's one way to just trust lived experience, that's the voice of knowledge, of expertise, and whatever I say is my experience, even if no one else can observe that experience. And so I think it's one of the ways that we can really push the field forward, to understand different ways that we experience anything related to suicide, whether it's our own experiences, our own thoughts, our own attempts, or our own losses.
Tall order.
Yeah. One of the things I've been thinking about in connection with this is that, so like Marsha Linehan, who's the founder of DBT, always talks about how everything that's in her programs is stuff she stole. And she says that. That's what she says. Not me. But here's where that connects for me is that one of the core components of DBT is about mindfulness. And so I think that there is some recognition there from the field that there's something spiritual, or there's something like connected with faith or religion or whatever. There's like something outside of science, and they tried to science it, like they made it very sciencey, and it's called mindfulness, and it's not called Buddhism, but she like straight up stole it from Buddhism. And she admits that it's not like a secret, but like that there is this space where we know that there is something about this stuff that is more helpful to people than anything we've ever been able to science. And so like I think there is like recognition from the field, but it's not in a way where we just let this be valuable on its own. It's like we have to like co-opt it and make it I don't know, like mental healthy or something. Because like it's okay for someone to do DBT and be like radical acceptance, but when I talk about like tarot cards help me accept the world as they are, that's radical acceptance, by the way. Like that's not like a therapeutic intervention. But they're the same thing, right? And so there's lots of pathways to the same goal, and we could do better as a field to create space for all of these other pathways, and like recognize their value in people's lives and like capitalize on them when people are in struggle, so that we're not just like ignoring the possibility that these other like pathways are helpful for people.
But they're not normal.
Yeah.
That they're not normal, but they kind of are normal, it turns out, because like everyone on here does tarot cards and stuff. So
anecdotally, they're normal.
And like every loss survivor I know has like some kind, like either is experiencing signs or really like has some kind of connection to that, like wants to be or whatever, you know. So or maybe doesn't want to be but knows about that experience. So I think it's interesting that that we haven't figured out how to integrate this into like the practice of suicide apology.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like in a lot of the lost survivor spaces I'm in, it's a pretty common conversation, but it's not really reflected in the bigger picture around suicide in the same way. But it's definitely, it's there. It's just there in a different way, and it's just when the space is right for it, when people have that shared experience. I think that people are comfortable talking about it, but it's not talked about at a different level.
Yeah.
Elise said she brings her tarot spreads to her therapist.
I know some therapists who do tarot with their clients. I've thought about doing that with people.
Yeah.
Like peer support / tarot. Yes.
I mean,
side gig. I need another side gig, you know?
You do. You need more things to do.
Yeah. I am not scheduled or busy enough.
I'll make you a website about it.
Yeah. Phil was asking about people who are doing things not tarot but similar. I know people who read like candles and do dream journals and dream interpretations. And then there's lots of intention setting stuff that I've heard about people doing. So like I think affirmations are like very, very, very close to spells, right? Spells are about like words that have been imbued with power. Like that's what spells are, words and actions that are imbued with power. That's what affirmations are. We just don't call them spells. So like I think there's connections in many ways to like things that people are doing. Yeah. And like sometimes it's about like sometimes a ritual of something is like just symbolic of whatever the thing is that you need to work through. So like there's lots of ritual or spells where you like burn the paper after you write something down, and it's like that's a really great way of like letting things go. And so like that could be a practice that someone might do in connection with you know, other kinds of mental health interventions, I think. Just embrace the woo, y'all.
There's the woo. There's a shirt.
Yeah.
What is candle reading?
So people read like they do like drip the candle wax and read it.
Oh, like tea leaves. Sort of.
Yeah. People do stuff with crystals. That's not my thing, but people are into crystals. You got a crystal?
Just kidding. I think it's pretty.
What's it do for you?
I look at it and it's pink and it's pretty and I like that.
Does it have power?
No.
No. What if you gave it some?
Make people not be mean to me.
No. So it's not like wishes. Spells
Look,
aren't wishes.
I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
Hey, how does this relate to, like, you talk about having powers, Jess, or like thinking that you have powers, and how that's like confusing for you. So
yes, yeah. So I feel like I have powers when I'm not, well, just all the time, but like the more I feel like I have powers, the more sort of out of hand my mental health might be. So like this stuff is a really good way for me to connect with like having power and not like lose too much touch with like consensus reality. So like being connected to consensus reality is important for me. Sometimes, not always. But it's like this actually the practice and the ritual is like a way of staying connected and tethered to reality because it gives me like power over powers.
Power over powers.
Yeah, like a sense of control and meaning that's really important. Because when I'm like full on, like I have powers, I can turn these handcuffs to sand version of me. Those experiences are meaningful and important, but they also teach me about the limitations that I have and stuff. And yeah, and I feel very out of control in those times, which is interesting because I feel both very out of control and like I think I like manifest that by like trying to have control in other ways. And so, like that's why it shows up as feeling like I have powers for me, I think. I don't know. Thinking about it, working through that on my own. No, not with a therapist, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. We don't have time for that story, do we?
Which? Turning my handcuffs to sand?
No, last time you tried to see a therapist.
Oh, no, but you can read about it on the internet all over the place.
That's true.
Yeah.
Christine thinks that we need to make a shirt that says I cry in public.
Like version 2.0.
Well, yeah. You know, Heidi, my colleague and friend, has always talked about her memoir being called Crying in Public Places.
You remember that Tumblr back in the day of like best places in New York City to cry?
No. I was a Tumblr person.
That was good. It'd be very specific.
Like everywhere, like literally anywhere in New York City is a great place to cry.
No, she'd be like, I went to the CVS on this street and this street, and there's this like area where I just went to town. It's just all the places.
Just very detailed. I like that.
I cry in airports a lot, and I'm trying to think if that's public or private. Like, what's that space? It's like semi-public.
Yeah, people start treating the airport like it's private pretty quick when
Right.
for any amount of time.
I think it goes toward private when you're on the plane crying.
Uh-huh. I'm definitely an airport crier.
Yeah.
No.
Oh. I don't have like a great ending statement for today, but this was interesting and fun and like very different than the other stuff we've talked about, which is exciting to me.
Yeah, I just hate it because I can't contribute like anything. I'm just like,
well, this is our local skeptic.
I'm not even being skeptical. I just have nothing.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Give me 10.
Yeah, I'll see. If I ever die, I will haunt you. So,
okay.
Danielle. I mean, I will die, not if I ever die. Like, I for real plan on dying in my lifetime. So that's news. But if I die first, I'll haunt you.
Very good. I'm glad we all plan on dying someday.
That turned out to be a better closing statement than I thought it was going to be. If I ever die, haunting Des.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that. Just don't be mean to me.
No, maybe a little.
And don't hurt me like we did the hurting thing.
There you go. Tattoos.
Good.
And tickle you.
That may be weird.
It won't be weird for me. You can't pick back.
You're the worst.
Well, what's next week? Or not next week. 2 weeks from now.
I don't remember.
Who we got? Is it
It's Anne.
Annie Snow?
No. Anne. Yes. Yes, our Canadian friend. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet.
It's going to be cool.
But she's fancy. She is a pretty well-known writer from Canada. She has a son named Theo, and he is a fan of my Theo, which I love. Also, she writes a series called Queens of Infamy. She's a super-duper history nerd. So is Theo. But I found her because Fel followed her. She used to write a blog called The Bell Jar about her mental health stuff. And so, yeah, she's got a ton of lived experience. And I've been fangirling over her for many years. And it seems like maybe you have also, Jess.
Yeah.
And
I just continue to, like, stalk people on the internet until they're kind of my friends.
Well, you're good at it. Because, somehow we became friends with Anne. So,
yeah.
So we're going to talk to her about being her.
Twitter sometimes?
Huh?
Do you post on her Twitter sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen those, yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce French things. I don't know if it's Thoreau. I don't know. She'll tell us.
She helped Carly, another one of my colleagues, get Matthew Lillard's attention, which is a really big deal for Carly.
I didn't know that.
She's extremely into Matthew Lillard.
I mean, I know that part. I didn't know the part about...
And he tweeted to her. It was a very big deal in Carly's life.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
Maybe she'll also come fangirl on the next Suicide and stuff.
All roads lead to Matthew Lillard, I guess.
Hopefully not all. That feels weird to me, but...
Yeah, I don't love it either.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we go?
We should go. We're done. We went over 4 minutes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.